This video may be canceled due to snow. We'll just have to see. Every year when fall comes around, I hear the back to school commercials and I get reminded, oh yeah, the kids are going back to school. And it makes me think about my own time in school and what was school like for me growing up. For grammar school or elementary school, I went to Coscob School. It was in Greenwich, Connecticut, in the Coscob section of Greenwich, Connecticut. I went there from the kindergarten through the 6th grade. This is a public school in Greenwich. My mom fought for me to get into public school because what they wanted to do was put me in a separate class in what they called the special class, with kids with all sorts of different types of learning disabilities and other kinds of handicaps. My mom kept insisting, no, my kid, his cognitive skills are fine. He just can't see. And she fought and she got me in with, matriculated into the regular school curriculum. As far as my early years of school, everything I did was in Braille. I had Braille books, I had Braille storybooks, Braille everything. And at the same time, I was learning Braille too. As I get a bit older now, like into the 3rd and 4th grade, when you're actually doing work and working out problems and writing, stories and things like that, I had a Braille teacher who would come in just about every day and take the stuff I would do in Braille and print over it. And she would print all my mistakes, all my spelling errors and everything. And then she could hand it to the teacher, and that was my work, and I could get my grade back. So that's how I did schoolwork. I even had a mobility instructor. Now that's somebody that comes and teaches me cane travel and how to get around the school building and how to find the sidewalks on my way in and out of school and all that kind of stuff. So I used my cane then too. I had my Perkins Brailler, which we actually made a video about, so if you'd like to see that and learn about it, we'll put a link for it right there in the description. That's easy to concentrate, isn't it? Another thing was a talking calculator. We made a video about that as well. You can find a link for that in the description as well. How do you say no in German? 9. Now it's time for me to move along to Central Junior High School for middle school or junior high. Now I have to learn a whole new school building again, and this is going to be a bigger school with a lot more kids. So again, I have a mobility instructor come and teach me, and I caught on to it pretty quickly, I think, because I was able to run around that school and I knew where every single classroom was, and I even knew where my locker was. We didn't have combination locks on. You could actually bring your own lock. So I did. I went to the hardware store and bought a lock and a key and everything. And that was how I did it. I wore it around my neck so I wouldn't lose it as a kid. A lot of things about junior high are pretty much the same as grammar school. I still had a Braille teacher come in and write over my work. The work just got a bit harder, and I started having more fun in school and hanging out and getting in trouble. One time this kid and I found a light bulb. I was like, well, let's break it somewhere. And so we did, because I just wanted to hear the sound. I like to sort of pop when a light bulb breaks. And then a teacher said, hey, nice going, fellas. And we got called into a little detention. To tell you the truth, the schools I went to, if I heard this once, I heard it 100 times. Well, we've never had anybody like you before, so we'll figure this out together. It's true. I was the only blind person I knew throughout my entire education career. Now I'm curious, what about you guys? Did you go to school with a blind kid? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments down below. Gym was funny for me because there wasn't a lot of stuff I could do. I couldn't play football, I couldn't play basketball. I learned how to shoot a basket and I learned how to throw a football. The only stuff I could do with the other kids was that president's physical fitness thing that you had to do back in the day. And you had to run like a 600-yard dash and do a few other things. And running a thing like that, sighted guide, stinks. But now they've sort of figured it out and there's like a rope or something you can hold on to and run, and you don't have to depend on somebody else to do it, so it's nice. Now, when I was in class, I couldn't take notes like the other kids, for example, because the Braille machine would make too much noise. So I would just try and remember things. As far as the way I was treated in class, I was called on just like the other kids. I didn't get any special treatment because I was blind in class. I still had to do all the work. I probably did get away with a little bit more, yeah, because I had somebody transcribing my work. There were different sort of avenues that I could take to get away with stuff. And I did. And I was a big talker too. So I would try and talk my way out of stuff. And there were some teachers who would buy it and there were a bunch who didn't. And I didn't really care for those people too much. In 10th grade is when I started high school, and now for most of that time I was at the Canterbury School in New Milford, Connecticut. When I got to Canterbury, things changed a lot, because now I'm out of the public school system. So we don't have the resources to get all the books in Braille. I couldn't use a Braille writer. There was nobody who was going to transcribe my work for me every day. So I had to type my assignments on a real typewriter. And that's kind of how I learned to type. There were no Braille stickers on this typewriter. I had to learn the home row just like everybody else. You're not supposed to look at the keys when you type. So I never cheated. In high school, the students were very cool with me, right? Because we all lived together. There were 40 of us that lived in this one dorm, so I knew kids all the time. I saw them all day, every day. When I was younger, though, people used to bully me and push me around and say things and call me blind as a bat, which I hated. Because they didn't call any of the other kids that. It was only me. That must have been like the first, second, third grade, somewhere in there. I was a little kid. It was hard enough being blind, and then I needed some kid busting my chops about it. My father always said this, and you know what? He was right. It builds character, and it did. Listen, I'm not thankful for the experience, but at the same time, I'm sort of glad it happened because it taught me how to deal with people like that. And you're gonna find bullies like that all throughout your life. You're gonna work for bullies. So, it's good I learned it at an early age.
What advice would you give teachers who have blind students?
I think the advice that I give to any teacher who had a blind student in their class would be to just treat them as normally as possible. Do all the same stuff you do with the other kids in the class. Don't single the blind person out, because it's all about matriculation. So you want to have that kid feel like all the other kids, because the only difference is the blind kid can't see. That's the only difference. And don't tell the kid, oh, we've never had anybody like you before, we're not quite sure what to do. That tells the kid, time to run wild on the teacher. They don't know what they're doing. I got this. I'll just talk my way through everything.
What advice would you give to a student who is blind about how to improve their experience at school?
Use your voice. Speak up when there's something that doesn't feel right to you. Just ask a question. Nothing bad's gonna happen if you just ask a question. And if you need any kind of assistance, with your disability or whatever, and you're not getting it, say something to somebody. Maybe talk to your parents or talk to your teacher too, and just say, hey, this would really be helpful for me. Hey, if you're interested in hearing some stories about some of the things I got in trouble for at school, we did a couple of videos on those earlier this year, and you can find a link for them right in the description. Hey, thanks for watching the video. If you're new to the channel, I hope you subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can find out every time we post a brand new video. As far as school, the one thing I learned is how much I hate homework.